Hi there, it's Jana Eubank. I am back with another scrapbook page using the Echo Park Paper Coffee Collection. If you watched my process video last week, you know that I'm not a coffee drinker, but I really love this collection because of all the beautiful florals and of course the color scheme. I first cut out several flowers from the Wake Up and Smell the Flowers paper, and then I also cut out the flowers from this 4x6 card that said coffee. I just loved the way that the flowers were nestled and kind of framing the word coffee, and I thought I'll cut those out and I'll use those to tuck in among the layers later on. But first I'm going to prepare my background. I chose to use this dark teal background of the coffee blend paper, and I wanted to mat it on some dark black paper, so I used the 4x4 journaling cards B-side that has kind of a black chalkboard feel to it. But before I adhere these two pieces together, you can see that I used my trimmer to cut out the middle of that black paper. And that's because on the other side there was a 4x4 journaling card that had this beautiful flower cluster, and I wanted to preserve it knowing that I could use it on another project later. These three photos are just some silly selfies that my two youngest daughters were taking in the car while they were waiting for the rest of our family to come and get into the car. And I love these pictures because they are pretty typical of these two. They are constantly playing on their phone and posing and making faces and just being silly as sisters. And so not only does it capture their personalities, but it captures their relationship as sisters as well. So I love that this black and white of these photos kind of pop off that dark background, and therefore I didn't want to add too much color or too much pattern around the photos. So I opted to use the 6x6 paper pad and just cut the paper so that the color and patterns are poking out above the photo and below the photo. And here I am using those flower pieces that I cut out earlier to just kind of tuck in between the photos and the pink solid paper, and I really like the way that looks. I chose to place them offset from one another, and that's so your eye will travel through the photos diagonally and just kind of take them all in. Next up, I put this black and white striped paper, and I just liked the way that mimicked the black and white of the photos, and again helps everything to pop off the page and off that dark background. One of my favorite pattern papers in this collection is the one with the brushstroke dots, and that one is called Coffee Run. You can see it here. There's also a coordinating stencil with that same pattern, and the stencil is called Coffee Dot. I wanted to use that on the background with some Vicki Boutin gold glaze, but I wasn't sure if the glaze would be too transparent on that dark background. So I did a little test swatch right here on the 6x6 paper that is the same color. And it worked perfectly, so I knew I could go ahead and move forward. Now, mixed media can freak me out a little bit because you don't really, it's always a guessing game. You kind of give up some control. You don't know exactly how it's going to turn out, but that's also part of the fun. And one of the reasons I love using stencils because while you are giving up a little bit of control, at least you know what the pattern is going to look like, as opposed to like ink smushing or watercoloring. You have some control. So I get that gold glaze into place, and then I decide that because the pattern of the gold glaze has that speckle dot, and then we've got that black and white stripe, that I should add another solid layer in between those two just to kind of define them. So I add in this olive green solid paper from the 6x6 paper pad. I'm pretty sure I'm done doing layers behind the photo, but I flip through the papers and look at a few just to test them out and see. But I do decide to move on. Now, the layers behind the photo and the photos themselves, there's a lot of rectangles happening, and the flowers and the mixed media kind of break that up a bit, but I also decided that I wanted to bring in something round or something smooth. So I grab this oval shape from the 4x6 vertical journaling cards, and I just go ahead and cut it out. I rough cut around the floral piece, thinking, well, I might have that flower peek out as well, but I don't end up using that. So I just cut around the outside of the oval and also around the inside of the oval. And I like that the black and white mimics the other black and white going on in the page, and then kind of adds that graphic but round element of the oval shape. And I end up just nestling it and kind of hugging the upper right corner of the photos. Next, I bring in those large floral pieces that I had fussy cut from the Wake Up and Smell the Flowers paper earlier. And anytime I have a large floral paper, I love to fussy cut them out, as you have probably noticed if you follow my work at all. So I'm definitely going to use those, and I add them there in that corner. And then I also want to use this coffee run paper with that fun multicolored brush dot on it. So I cut a large strip of it, and then I use this banner punch board by Jen Hadfield and Pebbles to notch the end. And I love using this tool to notch the end of things because I don't have to guess with my scissors. It does it perfect every time, and it's a great tool to use for this purpose. I mark the spot I want to place it, and then I use the quatrefoil pattern to place it straight on the page, and then I add the photo block on top of that strip. In the upper right corner of your screen, you can see that I've also cut out this 4x6 card that says "It's a Wonderful Life," and I'm going to end up using that as my title. I fussy cut off the after coffee part and the swirls, and it just made the perfect title, and I go ahead and adhere it to the bottom of my photos. To the right of the title, I add in another fussy cut flower, and I decide to use a peach flower, and that's because I have a large peach flower in the floral cluster to the left and also a small one above the photos, and that there just makes a nice visual triangle. I really loved that black and white stripe, and I was thinking I wanted to add a bit more at the bottom of the page along with a strip of pink solid paper. So I cut those out, and I test run them at the bottom, and I look at my design and decide, okay, the whole design is coming in off the right side of the page, so I really ought to put those two strips to the right side to anchor that. So I gingerly try to pull up this my whole photo block, and I tear the paper and all kinds of stuff, thinking that once I put those two strips on the right side of the page that I'm going to move everything over and have that banner piece kind of come out from those two strips, but it was all in vain because I actually end up just sticking that photo block right back where it was. So, oh well. Sometimes you go through a big old process and then you go right back to where you were, and that's okay. I love the way that the mixed media is poking out above and below this photo block, and the little splotch at the bottom was the perfect place to anchor my journaling strips to, and I love that you can see the gold kind of peeking through. I love the gold so much that I do decide to come back in and add more gold to this page by splattering on some Heidi Swapp gold color shine. Now, it's really hard to find this gold color shine anymore, and I was looking around recently on scrapbook.com, and it looks like the Tim Holtz bronze mist is, from the reviews, they say it's a gold color, and so if you're looking for something like that to add to your stash, maybe you want to give that one a try. Next, I bring in some of these peach enamel dots and add those to the top corner of the photos, and also a little spray below the title by the journaling. Now, the design line for this page seems to be going from the upper left down to the lower right corner, and so I'm kind of toying with the idea of bringing in this buffalo check pattern in the top left corner and the bottom right corner, along with some flowers. You can see that I already stuck down a large floral cluster at the bottom, and I come up to the top and try to do a little cluster up there. I eventually take off the one at the bottom. You'll see at the end the still shots, but I do keep this little cluster up in the upper left corner. I'm trying out some flowers. I even grab the little floral sticker from the sticker sheet, but the white border around that sticker just feels a bit too bright. So what I end up doing is going back to the 6x6 paper pad and finding the smaller version of the Wake Up and Smell the Flowers paper, and I fussy cut out a couple of those. Now I did just add a couple of phrase stickers to the top left of those pictures, and what they say is so sweet and a perfect blend. And most of the stickers on the sticker sheet are coffee related, so I was happy to find those two phrases because I thought they worked perfectly with this sister page. So that's pretty fun that I was able to do that. And of course the friends. So at this point it's done. I add in a couple of peach enamel dots in that upper left cluster just to tie it in with the rest of the page. And that's it. Here are some close-up shots. My name is Jana Eubank, and this is again the Echo Park Paper Coffee Collection. Thanks for joining me.